I've been thinking a lot lately about how we've all just accepted that getting through an airport is supposed to be this massive ordeal. We show up 2 hours early, we shuffle off our shoes, we dig through our bags for a laptop we forgot we packed, and we just kind of assume that the line is going to be long and the process is going to be slow. But here's the thing that actually keeps me up at night as someone who researches this stuff for a living. The security checkpoint you mastered last year might not exist anymore. The rules have shifted under our feet, and most people haven't even noticed. So I have to ask you, and I really want you to think about this before you scroll past. When was the last time you actually felt like you knew exactly what you were doing at the airport and what specific change threw you off the most? I'm being dead serious here. Drop that moment in the comments, because I have a feeling your story is going to sound a lot like the 7 massive shifts I'm about to walk you through. And I want to see if you've been catching what the TSA has been putting down, or if you've been walking into traps without even knowing it. Because here's the reality that the travel blogs don't tell you. The airport security experience in America isn't just slowly evolving, it's undergoing what I would call a quiet revolution. And like any revolution, there are winners and losers. The winners are the people who pay attention, who adapt, who understand that the game has changed. The losers are the folks who show up thinking it's 2019, who pack the same way they did 5 years ago, and who end up missing their flights because they got caught in a procedural ambush they never saw coming. I'm not trying to scare you, but I am trying to wake you up. If you fly even once a year, you need to understand that the landscape has shifted dramatically, and if you don't adjust, you are going to be the person sprinting through the terminal in your socks, while the gate agent sighs and closes the jet bridge door. Let's start with the first major change, and honestly, this is the one that trips up the most people because it feels like it shouldn't be a big deal. I'm talking about the way we handle our identification. For decades, the routine was simple. Hand over your driver's license, look at the camera, grab your license, and move on. But we are now firmly in the era of the credential authentication technology, or what the officers call the CAT machines. And just recently, they rolled out the second generation of these things, the CAT 2 units, which include fingerprint scanners and facial recognition cameras that are linked to your biographic data. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, I'll just opt out. I'll just say no to the photo. And you absolutely can. But here's where the delay creeps in. And it's insidious. The process of opting out isn't just a simple no thank you anymore. It requires a supervisor override. It requires the officer to stop the line, call for someone with specific credentials, and then manually enter your information the old-fashioned way. In a busy checkpoint, that can add 3 to 5 minutes to your personal processing time, and it creates a ripple effect that slows down everyone behind you. The system is designed to be seamless for those who participate, and intentionally cumbersome for those who don't. It's a psychological nudge wrapped in a security protocol. You need to know this going in, because if you're the type of person who values their privacy and plans to opt out, you need to add that buffer. You need to look the officer in the eye immediately and say, I will be opting out of the biometric screening, so that they can start the process of getting that supervisor before you even put your bags on the belt. If you wait until they try to scan your face, you've already caused the delay, and you're going to feel the pressure of 100 impatient travelers staring at the back of your head. The second change is directly related to that technology, and it's something I call the invisible line. Remember when the TSA agent would hold up your ID, look at your face, look back at the ID, and then hand it back? That human moment is vanishing. With the CAT systems, the machine does the verification. The officer is now just a monitor. But what this has done is fundamentally alter the flow of foot traffic. In the past, you stood directly in front of the officer, had your brief interaction, and then walked forward into the checkpoint. Now with these freestanding CAT units, you often stop at a podium, insert your ID, look into a camera, and then you're supposed to step aside and wait for your ID to be returned while the next person steps up. But here's the chaos theory in action. People don't step aside. They stand there, frozen, waiting for the machine to spit their license back out, completely blocking the person behind them who is trying to start their own scan. This creates a bottleneck that has nothing to do with security and everything to do with human behavior not keeping pace with technology. The savvy traveler now knows to treat that CAT machine like a blackjack table. You get your cards, you look at the dealer, and you get out of the way. You wait for your ID off to the side, not in the lane. It sounds trivial, but in a packed airport at 6 in the morning, those seconds compound into minutes. And those minutes are the difference between a relaxing walk to your gate and a panicked sprint. The third change is one that really gets under my skin because it feels like a step backward dressed up in high-tech clothing. I'm talking about the evolution of the advanced imaging technology, the body scanners. For years, we had the old millimeter wave machines that showed a generic outline and highlighted areas of concern. They were annoying, sure, but they were relatively fast. Now, airports are rolling out new generation scanners with automated target recognition software that is allegedly more precise. But here's the real-world consequence that the TSA press releases don't mention. These new machines are incredibly sensitive to fabric folds, moisture, and even the type of material in your clothing. I have personally witnessed, and I've heard from dozens of you in my travels, that these new scanners are flagging people for things like sweat marks on a shirt, the seam of compression socks, or even a heavy cotton weave that reads as too dense. This leads to what the officers call a pat-down resolution. And here's the kicker. The pat-downs themselves have changed. They are more thorough now than they were 5 years ago. The procedures have been updated to be more standardized, which means they are longer. If you trigger one of these new scanners for a false positive, you are now looking at a minimum of a 5 to 7 minute detour from your flow. That's an eternity in security time. So what's the practical takeaway here? You have to start thinking about your outfit as part of your security strategy. Heavy, dark clothing with lots of thick stitching? You're a candidate for a secondary screening? Synthetic fabrics that don't breathe and might show moisture? You're a candidate. The days of just throwing on any old hoodie and jeans and sailing through are fading. The savvy traveler is starting to dress in lightweight, simple, single-layer clothing specifically to reduce the chance of an anomaly on the screen. Now let's shift to something that isn't a machine at all, but a human behavior shift that the TSA has been forced to adapt to, and it's causing massive delays that nobody talks about. I call this the fourth change, the emotional volatility checkpoint. Since the pandemic, and I'm sure you've noticed this, social patience is at an all-time low. People are on edge. They're stressed about travel, about money, about life, and when you put stressed people in a confined space with confusing rules, you get conflict. What I'm seeing, and what my sources within the agency have confirmed, is that officers are spending significantly more time de-escalating situations than they did in the past. A simple request like, "Sir, please take your laptop out of your bag," can escalate into a 5-minute argument. And while that argument is happening, that lane is effectively closed. The officer involved is now focused on the irate passenger, not on moving the line. This is a hidden delay that you have to factor in. You are not just waiting for the people in front of you to physically move through the process, you are waiting for them to emotionally comply with the process. And if you are the person who argues, even if you're right, you have now become the delay for everyone behind you. My advice, and I can't stress this enough, is to adopt a mindset of radical compliance at the security checkpoint. It is not a place to make a stand. It is not a place to debate policy. It is a river, and you need to flow with it. The moment you stop to argue, you create a dam, and the water backs up. Be the water, not the dam. The fifth change is a logistical one that has to do with the evolution of the TSA pre-check lanes. Now, pre-check used to be the golden ticket. It was the express lane. It was the reward for being a trusted traveler, and for the most part, it still is faster than the standard lane. But here's what's happening. Pre-check is a victim of its own success. Millions of people have enrolled. The lanes are packed, and because the rules in pre-check are more relaxed, you actually get a different kind of bottleneck. You get families with children who have pre-check but don't travel often, and they're fumbling with snacks and strollers. You get business travelers who are rushing and cutting in line. The result is that the differential between the pre-check lane and the standard lane has narrowed. In some airports, at peak times, the standard lane with the new automated bin return systems is actually moving faster than the pre-check lane because the standard lane is designed for high-volume, rapid processing, while pre-check is still using the older, slower manual bin systems in many places. You need to know your airport. You need to know that just because you have pre-check doesn't mean you automatically go to that lane. Look at the lines. If the pre-check lane is backed up into the concourse and the standard lane has no line because everyone assumes it's slow, you might be making a mistake by getting into the longer line. It's counterintuitive, but that's the new reality. Trust, but verify the line length. The sixth change is one of the most frustrating, and it involves the liquids rule. I know, we all thought the 311 rule was eternal, but technology is finally catching up to the inconvenience. Airports are beginning to install computed tomography scanners, the CT scanners, which create a 3D image of your bag and allow you to leave liquids and laptops inside. This is the future. It's glorious. It's what they've had in London for a while. But here's the American twist that is causing chaos. The rollout is uneven. You might fly out of an airport like Phoenix or Chicago O'Hare that has these scanners in some checkpoints but not others. Or, and this is the real nightmare, you might fly out of an airport that has them, but the signage is terrible. So you pack your bag expecting to leave your liquids in, you get to the checkpoint, and you realize you're in a lane without the new scanner. Now you're that person frantically digging through your carry-on, trying to find your quart-sized bag, holding up the line while you search for that tiny toothpaste you forgot you had. Or worse, you're in a lane with the new scanner, but the person behind you isn't, and the officer has to constantly shout instructions, confusing everyone. The delay here is an information delay. You cannot assume anything anymore. You have to look at the signage above the lane before you even take off your jacket. You have to look for the telltale white cylinder of the CT scanner. If you see it, you can relax. If you don't, you need to be mentally prepared to perform the old dance. This inconsistency is a tripwire for the unprepared traveler, and it's causing more missed flights than almost any other single factor right now. And finally, the seventh change. This is the one that I want to leave you with because it's the one that combines all the others, and it's the one that most people refuse to believe until it happens to them. I'm talking about the change in the culture of the TSA officers themselves. There has been a massive hiring and turnover cycle in the last few years. The agency has brought on thousands of new officers, and while they are trained, they lack the institutional, intuitive knowledge of the veteran officers. They are by the book because that's all they know. A veteran officer might see your confused face and wave you through or give you a verbal shortcut. A new officer under pressure to perform and fearful of making a mistake will follow the procedure to the letter. If the procedure says you need to take off your belt, and your belt is made of a material that might not set off the metal detector, a veteran might let you test it. A new officer will make you take it off. That interaction takes time. Multiply that by 1,000 interactions a day across the country, and you have a system that is slower, more rigid, and less forgiving. You are now dealing with an enforcement mindset that has shifted from security partner to security enforcer. You have to adjust your behavior accordingly. You have to be perfect. You have to have your boarding pass and ID ready, not fumbling in your pocket when you reach the front. You have to have your electronics accessible. You have to be ready. The margin for error has shrunk because the human element on the other side of the counter is less flexible than it used to be. So, where does that leave us? It leaves us in a world where the airport is no longer a place you can navigate on autopilot. It's a dynamic environment that requires situational awareness, adaptability, and a healthy dose of patience. You have to be the one in control of your own journey because the system is no longer designed to help you if you fall behind. It's designed to process you efficiently if you fit the mold, and to spit you out if you don't. You have to understand the biometric traps, the clothing sensitivities, the emotional triggers, the uneven technology, and the green officers. You have to weave all of that into your travel plans. And I hope, after hearing all of this, you feel a little less like a victim of the system and a little more like an informed participant, because knowledge really is the only thing that cuts through that line. Now, I meant it when I asked you at the beginning, and I want to circle back to it. What has been your moment? Or when did the airport security system catch you off guard? Tell me about it in the comments. Let's build a map of the chaos together, because your story might be the one that saves someone else from sprinting through the terminal in their socks. Safe travels, and stay aware out there.